Good afternoon, everyone. As we allow people to come on, we're going to go ahead and get started. We welcome you all to the sixth and we believe a final, you never know if we'll add some more topics, but sixth and final installment of our Corona Conversations. I am Susan Bonnet-Bourgeois, the CEO of the North Shore Community Foundation, and I am only temporarily hosting this Zoom call today. I will very shortly turn it over to one of the other leaders in this parish who is a great partner. But before I do that, I want to thank the folks at the St. Tammany Chamber again for handling all the technology and getting us all signed up for this, and our partners at St. Tammany Corporation. Our foundation is very happy to co-host this, the three of us together. We have really been thrilled with the outcome of these 6 sessions. I hope you all are too. And just as a matter of housekeeping, know that all of these have been recorded and are available on all 3 organizations' websites and the YouTube channel. And they have been, if you haven't seen the others, I really encourage you to go back and watch. So thank you all for joining us today. The topic today is, as I think you know because you're here, is an interesting combination because it's hospitality and quality of life. And the reason we put those 2 things together is those of us who live here know that while quality of life is really just the value proposition of our place, and it is what all demographics, all age groups, you name it, count as one of the main reasons they live here, the same could be said about why people visit here. So it made lots of sense to us to combine those 2 topics into one conversation about what the coronavirus pandemic has done both in the near term to our industries that work in hospitality and quality of life space, but then also in the long term and what it means for us as a parish and how we will adjust, and are there opportunities among all the challenges that we now face. So with all of that said, I am going to introduce and turn it over to Donna O'Daniels, our partner and the CEO of the St. Tammany Tourist Commission, and I'm really grateful to Donna for putting together a tremendous panel for us today. You know, this is her subject matter. She knows this space well. And so Donna, if you will take over, thank you very much for your leadership on this.
Absolutely, Susan, and thank you very much. Thanks to the foundation, also the St. Tammany Corporation and the Chamber for organizing these conversations. I think they're very important for us right now as we navigate the coronavirus pandemic. Today we have a great panel for you with several representatives from the hotel industry, Chef Pat Gallagher from the restaurant industry. We also have Amy Bouton from St. Tammany Parish Government to talk about the Tammany Trace, the fishing pier in Slidell, and also Camp Salmon. And then we have representatives from the cities of Slidell, Covington, and Mandeville to talk about the programming that they do, because certainly that is a very important part of the quality of life here on the North Shore that both residents and visitors enjoy. So we're going to start with a brief slideshow. We could load the slides, but I basically want to start with an introduction of what we're experiencing because of the pandemic. You know, before the coronavirus pandemic, the travel industry contributed $2.6 trillion to the economy and supported nearly 16 million American jobs. Travel was the #2 overall export for the United States, a 1 in 10 employer in every state, including Louisiana, and a critical driver of economic development for communities nationwide. Next slide, please. The only event that has ever truly devastated the travel economy nationwide was the terrorist attacks on 9/11. The recovery from that took a long time, and it changed the way we travel forever. I'm sure many of you remember fondly the days before we had to take our shoes off when we fly and pack all of our toiletries in tiny containers and Ziploc bags. Next slide, please. But the impact of COVID-19 is much worse. In fact, they're predicting that it's going to be 10 times that of September 11th, and it's going to take much longer to recover from. In March, as you know, travel came to a standstill worldwide. Travel businesses, including hotels, restaurants, event venues, and attractions, and their employees were among the first and hardest hit. And the consequences are having a devastating impact in a way our industry has never experienced before. According to new research, the economy has lost $2 billion per day as a result of decrease in travel demand. Next slide. And while consumer spending is expected to rebound next year, it will take 5 years for travel spending to recover to pre-COVID levels. So while people are still spending money at Home Depot, decorating their homes, buying groceries, going out to eat as much as we can, you know, we expect those consumer spending trends to be somewhat back to normal, back to 2019 levels by next year, but it'll be 2024 before the travel economy truly begins to rebound. Next slide, please. So maybe you're thinking St. Tammany's travel industry really has no impact on you, but that's not the case. Last year, visitors to St. Tammany spent nearly $800 million on lodging, food, attractions, shopping, and entertainment, and supported over 10,000 jobs. That spending also generated nearly $80 million in state and local taxes. And if all of those visitor expenditures went away to make up for those taxes that aren't being collected, your household would pay over $1,000 more in taxes every year to keep the same level of services we currently enjoy. So bottom line, when visitor spending goes down, your taxes very likely are going to have to go up in order to continue to maintain the quality of life we have here on the North Shore, particularly since it's predicted to be such a long-term recovery. Next slide, please. There are also several organizations that depend on revenue from occupancy taxes that are collected at our hotels. The Tourist Commission, of course, is one of the ones that receives almost all of its funding from hotel taxes, as does St. Tammany Corporation. In addition, St. Tammany Parish Government, Recreation District 1, and the Harbor Center all receive hotel taxes to supplement their funding. And these occupancy taxes are projected to be down between 20 and 25% for the year. But these organizations all provide important services to our community, so that gap is going to need to be filled. Next slide, please. So what are we doing about it? When we were on lockdown, the Tourist Commission pivoted to speak to our locals instead of potential visitors. In collaboration with the St. Tammany Chamber and St. Tammany Corporation, we began supporting our small businesses by encouraging our locals to frequent them in a safe manner. As soon as we went into phase 2, we launched an aggressive marketing campaign aimed at visitors within a 2-hour drive radius. And starting August 1st, we relaunched our annual Tammany Taste of Summer campaign, which offers a discount savings pass to restaurant, attractions, and hotels for both locals and visitors. So if you haven't signed up for that savings pass yet, go to tammanytaste.com. And that's going to go through September 30th. Preliminary numbers from this campaign show triple-digit increases year over year, so comparing 2019 to this year, and nearly 5,000 clicks to book local hotels. So, so our metrics look great in terms of those campaigns, and we feel like that's one of the reasons why our hotel lodging, our occupancy, is only down between 20 and 25% versus 40 to 45% that some other destinations are seeing. And now I would like to bring the panel back up, and the first panelist that we are going to talk to is Martin Patel. Martin and I have been in this industry for quite a while. In fact, I can remember vividly after Hurricane Katrina talking with Martin quite a bit about what recovery from that was going to look like. And here we are 15 years later talking recovery again. Martin is the owner-operator of the Best Western Plus and the Comfort Suites in Slidell. He's been in this industry for a long time, and he's got to leave us a little bit early, so I wanted to start with him. Martin, can you tell us what you have been experiencing from the standpoint of your businesses? How has COVID impacted you?
Thank you, Donna. I'd like to welcome everybody to this webinar. Yeah, when we first got wind of the COVID pandemic, there was a lot of miscommunication, a lot of confusion. But the first thing we noticed was the confusion caused a drastic drop in travel, specifically more travel from the city, people that fly into the area, people that make out-of-state travel. It became very evident very quickly that the drive market was going to be our bread and butter for the period of this pandemic. And it's Katrina, excuse me, not Katrina, 9/11. As with 9/11, the airline industry took a big hit, and so having our guests fly into our hotels or fly into our market became non-example, reduced drastically. And part of that, Texas is a huge feeder market for us. The size of Texas, the size of its economy, has always been a big impact on us. And those folk love to travel to Louisiana, love to drive through on the way to Florida. We noticed all of that stop. Watching those trends, watching our neighboring states go through their implementations of their precautions has affected us, but the drive market has mirrored all of those trends. That trend has also played into the type of business that we've been getting. Our corporate business has reduced drastically. The corporate business, if we were to segment it into, say, blue collar and white collar, where, such as ourselves, we're taking Zoom meetings, we're distance communicating. That hasn't been possible, obviously, in the blue collar industry. Technicians, engineers, mechanical workers, they've actually continued to work. They've actually continued to come into the area, barring state prohibitions to actually leave the state or enter Louisiana. So we've seen that business become more important. Referring back to the drive business, social, military, educational, religious, and fraternal, that's the leisure market. That's seen ebbs and flows. Obviously, people being restricted to staying at home has caused a lot of pent-up frustration, a lot of pent-up wanting to travel. And so during our holiday periods, we've seen, granted, a reduction in the amount of travel, but very last minute and very increased burst in the travel market. Drive has been, as I say, our bread and butter, and I feel like even going into 2021, drive will be a big impact.
I think you're absolutely right, Martin. I mean, that's certainly what we're hearing from our other hoteliers in St. Tammany, and also our colleagues across the state, is that, you know, who we're seeing, there is no more fly-in business. There certainly aren't any international travelers coming in. And so it's basically folks coming in from a 1 to 2 hour drive radius. They're making that last minute decision. Gosh, I want to get out of the house for a long weekend or something, and they're packing up the car and going. You know, I mentioned at the outset, talking about 9/11, that really had, I mean, incredible, long-lasting changes for our industry. That, you know, many were trying to predict what that was going to look like right after 9/11 happened. In terms of long-lasting change, what do you think we're going to see as a result of some of these trends? Do you think that the trend for, you know, that corporate white-collar business traveler, will it ever come back to the levels that it was? Or do you think that we're going to have a more, you know, kind of Zoom economy, and that the corporate travel may now skew more towards the blue collar?
I feel like the way white collar, the corporate market works in the industry or in the corporate world, in the search for profits, personal relationships will always be number one. In order to drive those sales, in order to build relationships, I feel like the corporate market will return. Granted, it's going to take a lot of confidence and companies to feel like it's worth the risk And it's going to be a risk-benefit analysis for each company when they feel like they want to get ahead, to beat the competition, to get out there and send salespeople. But they'll only do that once there's comfort out there from a health perspective. And that could take numerous years. That could take 2 to 3 years.
And with the projections that it's going to be a long-term recovery, that it could in fact be 2024 before our industry gets back to 2019 levels. I think you're absolutely right there. Workforce has always been an issue for our industry, particularly for the hotels and food service industries. What changes in the labor market have you seen since this all started back in March?
So the labor market has been tremendously strained. I find myself wearing many more hats than I did in previous disasters that we've had in the area. And this has been a greater impact in that the longevity of this pandemic. There's no end in sight. Granted, the government has stepped in and made the general public whole by providing unemployment. And that's been a detractor in employees wanting to come back to work. We've had employees, granted for our hotels, being right here on the ground, we have relationships with our employees. And so we haven't seen the kind of turnover that other businesses that may not have owner operators on the ground. If you have a business that relies solely, you have a distance business where you don't have the owner or the top line management integral in the business, then the employees will feel a little more lost and you could see some turnover. But the replacement of employees, that's been non-existent. We haven't been able to find the talent. It seems like, this was primarily COVID started, but then Laura also hit us. And so now we have the west side of the parish that's also being that's drawing labor over to it for regeneration of their side. But once even Laura's situation, and I feel for those folks over on that side, once that's even stabilized, I don't know whether the labor market will come back so soon. COVID is such a big animal, and employees, especially in the hospitality market, you have to be, unfortunately, up close and personal. That's what hospitality is. You are up close and personal. There's nothing we can really do at a distance, as in the restaurant industry. And so with that, people traveling, people still listening to the media, all the information and misinformation out there about how COVID is impacting folks, it causes folks not to want to travel, not to want to engage in their fellow person. So being able to hire people has been difficult because, again, there's that stigma of I might contract COVID. And then also with guests not wanting to come back or feeling that stigma. It's an evolving situation, and it's not one that I can see an end to at this moment.
I think you're right. It's a real conundrum because for those of us in the hospitality industry, particularly here in the South, I think people expect that warmth, whether it's from the folks that they interact with at the hotels, the restaurants, the attractions, and now with us being socially distanced and wearing masks, it's really hard to kind of give folks that feeling that that people yearn for when they travel, and that's what brings them back. And according to our research, a lot of the folks who visit the North Shore are repeat visitors. Once they come, they fall in love with it, and they come back over and over. You mentioned those travelers going back and forth between Florida and Texas. A lot of them use us as their midway point if they want to stop and spend the night or have a meal or whatever. So we've definitely seen the impact of that. One last question: have you incurred any additional expenses? I know all of the hotel brands have their own cleaning processes that they're rolling out, and of course with PPE and everything else. Is this taking away from your bottom line now, all of these additional expenses that you're incurring?
Without a doubt. Our brands have mandated that we, and rightly so, to maintain confidence, that we sanitize our rooms on a regular basis. We provide our guests hand sanitizing bottles in their rooms. We provide our staff PPE equipment. And so all of those aspects to maintain confidence and maintain a safe environment, as well as the increased labor hours in cleaning rooms. We manage our guests' room checkout rooms. We put them in quarantine for as long as possible when possible, so to mitigate the possibility of transmission. And so all of those, the inability to rent our rooms, the extended cleaning period, the expense, and the inability to actually turn a room around affects our ability to rent a room too. So it's a double-sided sword.
Sure. Martin, I know you have to go because you have another appointment in just a few minutes, but I just wanted to thank you for taking the time to be with us as someone who has been in this industry for a really long time, and particularly here in St. Tammany. You've seen the ebbs and flows of the tourism economy here, and we've certainly been impacted by 9/11 and Katrina and the recession, the BP oil spill, multiple floods and other weather disasters. It seems like we've seen them all, and now we can add a pandemic to that too. So I really appreciate your time today. Thanks so much for sharing your thoughts.
I'd like to add that our industry is resilient. We don't plan to go away. Tourism, we're ingrained in tourism here in the South, as you mentioned earlier. I think we'll sustain vitality. Thank you so much, Donna.
Thank you, Martin. And now I would like to bring in Lisa Condry Ward, who is the owner, operator, designer, someone who many people know from the Southern Hotel. And Lisa, I appreciate you being with us to give us your perspective as a hotelier. Certainly the Southern Hotel has become a fixture in the lives of many here on the North Shore, both residents and visitors. And so we would like to hear from your perspective. How has COVID impacted you and the Southern and your operations?
Well, I at the beginning of starting the hotel, you sit down and you go through every possible scenario. What if there's a hurricane? What if there's a fire? What if, all these things that you think you've prepared for. This was just not one of those things at all. So everything about it's been a learning curve. From all of the steps that Martin just talked about, the extra cleaning, the thought that has to go into every surface that's touched, and how do we make sure that that's clean and make people feel comfortable. We've fitted our air conditioners with a special system in the public areas where, it will kill viruses. Just things that honestly weren't on anybody's radar screen. But I think everyone has done a good job of stepping up and just getting their arms around this and saying, we have to do what we have to do. I am the eternal optimist. I hate to hear the projections that talk about 2024. In the time that we were closed for 2 months, and then in the time that we were open before the governor did the last kind of step back, I was amazed at how quickly the occupancy came back. I was dreading it because I thought, oh man, nobody's traveling, but they are. And again, it is the driving distance, last minute. It's not the corporate, that's going to take a while. But I am more optimistic than, especially for here. I will say at least Covington. That's really all I can talk about. I think that we may actually be at an advantage in a way, just because how we have weathered it, perception-wise at least, is better than New Orleans. And there's a lot of people who want to travel, who maybe are going to choose to come to a smaller town, to some place that feels a little less crowded, and they'll just be more comfortable with that. I think it's an opportunity for us actually to make Covington even more of a destination. We certainly have the wonderful restaurants here, and that's something I worry about with all of this. And I can't have a hotel in a town that's a ghost town, right? We've been fortunate. It appears that our restaurants are hanging in there. You know, our retail shops. I mean, this may be an opportunity for us to reach out to Magazine Street and some other places and say, hey, you know, come try the waters over here. And I mean, I'll try to look at it and hope that there's a silver lining somewhere in all of this. It's hard to see, but maybe there is.
I love that. And I do think that there will be silver linings that may not be apparent right now, but certainly as we experienced after Katrina and after, you know, particularly, I think the example that most of us would think of was Katrina, and that in the aftermath, you know, there were things that happened during the recovery that were needed changes that might not have happened when they did had it not been for Katrina. And certainly the North Shore was a beneficiary of a lot of that growth. And so I do love that optimism, and I think you're absolutely right that there are some opportunities here for us as a destination to grow, and that will, of course, impact the quality of life. One of the things, Lisa, that really impressed me with the Southern was that almost immediately, even when we were on lockdown and the hotel was closed, y'all began creating content. You know, you started going to the folks in downtown Covington and you know, your landscaper, and you started doing these videos and putting them out there so that for those of us who were kind of cooped up in our homes, we could still feel that, you know, that bond, I think, with the Southern Hotel. Can you tell us a little bit about that thought process and how it came about?
Well, you know, we always intended to expand on our social media work and all that. But, you know, when you're super busy, which thankfully we were, those kinds of things just got put to the back burner a little bit. But I think it was just really out of the sadness and of being in that lobby and there's no one there, that hasn't happened since the day we opened. And I just said, we have to connect. We have to stay connected. And it just really kind of organically came out. But the good thing was, and so now we do have a broader YouTube presence. The bar started doing on like Wednesday nights, you know, the little videos, and we're going to keep that up. People still want us to do them even when the bar was, you know, open again. So that's been, I think a good thing. And again, it was trying to remind people, it's not just the hotel, you know, come remember downtown, remember everybody that's here, because when you're in a boutique hotel business, I mean, I'm not out in the mountains or on some beautiful lake. I'm in the middle of a town, and that town needs to be vibrant and thriving. That's what people want to come here for. And we just wanted to keep reminding we're here and we're still going to be here, you know, when this is all over. And so it was a very just organic thing that happened, but it's been positive and it's helped us realize, yeah, that social media thing is definitely worth spending more thought process on and more time on. You know, it's why not?
Absolutely. I was with a travel journalist once sitting in the lobby of your hotel, and she remarked to me that the Southern was like the heartbeat of downtown Covington. You know, she had stayed there for a few days and talked to several people, and she said that she had been struck by the fact that there were just as many local people who were in and out of the lobby and enjoying the bar area and eating at Oxlot 9 as there were visitors. And you know, that's not something that you get everywhere, so it's definitely something very special. Where do you see things kind of going and evolving? I know you said y'all were going to continue to do the social media. I've noticed that y'all have a lot of events that are coming up. Can you share a little bit about some of those events that, you know, even as we're still in phase 2 and we've got social distancing requirements and all of those things, how are y'all planning these events to really bring people back to the Southern in a safe way?
Well, we kind of also used those 2 months that we were closed to, we had just things that we'd put off to do. And one of them was, unfortunately, the trees in the courtyard were not really installed properly, apparently, and they had to go. They were a hazard. So, but what it did, it allows a much bigger tent now. So we have a giant tent, I don't know if you've been there, in the courtyard, so that it makes it more of a, all-weather space. Now, I don't know how long it's going to stay there, but for a few months at least, because that people, I think, feel much more comfortable right now being outside, and we have so much outside space. So we brought in more tables and chairs and places for people to be distanced but outside. And right now, with the bars being, technically closed, having the events is something that they said we can do, because you kind of limit it. You know how many people are going to be there. So we started it for that, because this is the only way we can be open for people. And then, and then that's, I think right now, everybody's just looking for some little diversion. So we have a ghost night coming up, I think Thursday night. I have a shopping pop-up coming up at the end of October that I'm trying to get the downtown merchants to participate in. It'll be like a pumpkin stroll, so people know there's something happening in town. So many of our events have had to be canceled. And we'll continue to do, I think, a lot of these events. But, one thing that we have noted, especially through this, is how much of our customer base is local. It's so when we have to completely shut the bar down, that's a hard thing, especially when I feel like our particular location, because of the space that we have, we can do it safely,
Right.
but it's not an option right now. But it has pointed out to us what we always knew, but I see the numbers of the difference when local people can't come. And that's, so we're anxious to get all that going again. And I think, one other good thing in a way out of this is we've had some weddings that were very nice, beautiful Ritz-Carlton kind of weddings that came over from the city. Last minute, I feel really sorry for all these brides. I mean, they're just having to turn their world upside down. But because they couldn't get answers over there about what they would be able to do or not, they came over here. And so that has actually opened us up to a lot of New Orleans people who maybe, never thought of us as a destination wedding place, really, because they have so many wonderful places in the city. But I think that's going to be helpful. That may be another silver lining, that we're on the radar screen, even from people in New Orleans. It was so easy to go over there and have a very lovely wedding. Not to mention it was probably cheaper. So, but anyway, I think that things are going to come back faster than the minute they say we have a vaccine. I think we're all going to be shocked at how quickly this is all going to come back. I really do.
From your lips to God's ears. That's all I can say. I think the wedding market has been a perfect example of, we may have seen some decreases in the corporate market, but that has been a segment that has come over to the North Shore, honestly, in droves, because exactly as you said, we were able to assist those brides and those wedding parties and give them clear answers right away, so that they could plan as best they could under the restrictions that we have now. So I've heard about some fantastic weddings that have been held here on the North Shore, and many of them have been at the Southern. So that's definitely a silver lining.
Right.
Wonderful. Well, now we are going to transition from the hotel industry to the restaurant industry. And to do that, we're going to talk with Chef Pat Gallagher, someone who practically needs no introduction here on the North Shore. He owns restaurants in Mandeville, Covington, and Slidell. And based on how difficult it is sometimes to get a reservation at his restaurants, we know that that they're doing pretty well given the circumstances of COVID. Welcome, Pat. Thank you so much for joining us today. Can you tell us a little bit about how COVID has impacted your businesses and the way you operate over the last 6 months?
Well, thank you, Donna. It's a pleasure to be here today. It has been a challenge. Like Lisa said, none of us could see this coming down the pipe at all. And, we're fortunate in that most of our restaurants, in fact, all of them, really depend on our locals. We're probably 95% within 6 miles of the restaurants. When we opened up, we had a lot of good Mandeville customers when we opened the Covington restaurant that we would see 3 times a year, 4 times a year, but now we're seeing them every 3 or 4 weeks in Mandeville. The addition that we did in Covington was quite helpful to get us through this tough stretch. We were going to do it in several phases over about 4 or 5 months. And when the shutdown happened, my contractor and I looked at each other and we just said, let's go for it. And we were able to get it done and have it ready when we did the reopening, even at 25%. But adding the 35, 40, 45 seats has really helped a lot with the 50% occupancy.
Tell us a little bit. I know you've had some new irons in the fire for a while now. How has this impacted some of your newer businesses and ventures that are coming up?
Yeah, leave it to me to open 2 new places during the pandemic, huh? Good grief. If there was any doubt I was crazy before, it's been confirmed now. But the restaurant project is going full tilt. We're looking late October on that. It's really turning into a beautiful facility. I partnered with Barrett and Jill McGuire on that project. I think it's going to be a real destination. I told the mayor not long ago, the lakefront I grew up here. The lakefront has never been more beautiful than it is right now. The city of Mandeville does a fabulous job on keeping it up, and it's generating a lot of excitement. It's been a long running process for Barrett and Jill, and I got on board about 1.5 years ago. But it looks like we're going to wrap things up and be ready to go at the end of October. We also opened the old Band's Grocery, which was an iconic little grocery in Old Mandeville that was a bus stop for 50 years. And Barrett's first job was sweeping the parking lot there for 35 cents a day. So when the building became available, he used to buy his baseball cards there. He used to get his Slurpees there and play video machines. And he bought the building and we put a sandwich shop in there. And you can also get a Slurpee and buy baseball cards and play video machines if you like. But it's an old-time sandwich shop right there at the corner of Lafitte and Monroe. Lunch only though. But we've been fortunate. Some of the other guests were talking about the labor market. We've been fortunate to keep most of our people. The payroll protection loans were a great bridge for us to get to point B, getting the places open. I don't know what a lot of people in this industry would have done without that. Mm-hmm. It absolutely saved us and got us to the next spot. But it's been challenging. We haven't lost many employees. Part of that being due to insurance. My wife and I made a decision a long time ago to provide insurance to our employees. And that wasn't lost on them. They've stuck with us and they've hung in there. And we're doing probably 75% of what we were doing before with 50% of the occupancy. So we can't complain. We're very, very fortunate in how people have come back to us. One thing I will say, and I mentioned it to you the other day, Donna, we've got a lot of guests that are in that very vulnerable demographic. And they notice the places that are adhering to the guidelines, who are wearing masks, who are doing social distancing, because they comment on it. And they're paying attention to it. but you know, if they feel safer, much the same what Lisa was saying about, you know, we bring a company in once a week and sanitize all the restaurants in the middle of the night. If we can do anything to make our guests feel comfortable and make it safer for them, we're all on board with it.
That's fantastic. That has to be adding to your expenses to do all of that, but it's worth it in the long run.
I don't think there's any question about it. You know, we talked about it for about 30 minutes and made the decision to do it. And of course, we've got it posted on the door. You know, please mask when you come in, and that the building is sanitized. You know, you've got extra expense. You're printing your menus just for one time, throwing them away. Wine lists, that type of stuff. Some of them we have laminated, but as Mr. Patel mentioned earlier, you know, all those types of little expenses, it's just the right thing to do.
Absolutely. Stepping back a little bit, in terms of the restaurant industry, I know that that you talk with a lot of the folks with the LRA, and what do you see the long-term impact of COVID being for the restaurant industry, you know, on the North Shore and also beyond? Because I think, you know, certainly the food scene here, the quality of our restaurants here on the North Shore is something that visitors love, but it's something that our locals, you know, that's a reason why people move here is because the food is so great. So what do you see the impact being as we move out of this?
Well, you know, it's not just affecting the restaurants. It's affecting all of the fishermen, or the produce vendors, the linen companies, all of them. It's affecting all of them. And I feel, from the bottom of my heart, I feel for our brothers and sisters in New Orleans, because it's catastrophic to the industry over there. We're fortunate over here that we've got our local base that of regulars, that we're not totally dependent on out of town guests. But it's gonna be a long road back. You know, there's gonna be some names that are, you know, K. Paul's going away. You know, it broke my heart. You know, he was such a wonderful man and did so much for the Louisiana restaurant industry, both from a marketing and a personal standpoint. Always had time to talk to a young chef. He was a wonderful guy. I hated to see his place go away, but I'm like Lisa. I've obviously got some good thoughts about it and some optimism, or I wouldn't be doing these other two projects. I could have walked away from them, but we're gonna plug on, keep on going.
I'm glad you mentioned the trickle down impact, you know, all of the farmers and the fishermen and all of the folks who supply our restaurants and the impact that it's having on them. Are there any ways that you can think of, you know, in addition to continuing to support restaurants like yours, but are there any other ways that folks here on the North Shore could try to you know, make sure they're buying Louisiana seafood or going to our farmers markets, things like that?
The buying Louisiana seafood is a must, and you know, everything we have in our restaurant is domestic seafood. You know, back in the old days, Donna, you had one seafood supplier on the North Shore back in the 70s. It was Mr. Preston Battistella. He was legendary in the business. And he would come over on Thursdays. That was the only truck that you would get over here. So you didn't want to be eating fish on Tuesday or Wednesday around here. So it's changed so much. We've got some great purveyors. We get delivery 6 days a week. But I just ask all the people listening, support your local restaurants, even if it's just going in for lunch every now and then. God knows we appreciate it, and please support us.
I think it's an important message. We've certainly heard that that New Orleans could lose as many as half of their restaurants, and you know that's going to be, if that happens, it's going to be devastating for the city, and we certainly don't want to see anything even approaching those numbers here on the North Shore. And you know, that's one of the reasons why the Tourist Commission felt so strongly to continue to market the Tammany Taste program, which we appreciate you for always participating in that. And of course, we've opened that up this year to our attractions and hotel partners as well. But definitely everybody should, you know, if you feel safe and comfortable doing it, go out and support our local restaurants. I know I've eaten at 527 a few times since we were able to open back up. In fact, I had my youngest daughter's 18th birthday party there almost the week that y'all opened. So I can attest to the fact that there are restaurants like yours who are doing things the right way, and you can go and feel comfortable and have a memorable dining experience. And that's what life on the North Shore is about, enjoying life.
Well, and you know, if they aren't comfortable coming in, call in an order, and have them do it curbside for you. You know, all these operators will be more than happy to bring it out to you, to your car. So yeah, even do takeout. Any support would be greatly appreciated by all of us.
Absolutely. Chef, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it. And please hang out if you can. I also want to mention to all of the participants on the webinar, if you have any questions for our panelists, please be sure to type them into the Q&A box that is down at the bottom of your screen, and we'd be delighted to get those questions answered. And now we are going to go to Amy Bouton. Amy is the Public Information Officer for St. Tammany Parish Government. And Amy, thank you so much for joining us, and we appreciate you sharing your thoughts on how COVID has impacted, in particular, the attractions that we all know and love: the Tammany Trace, the fishing pier in Slidell, and Camp Salmon, and then also, of course, the playground and all of the other things that we residents enjoy that you guys do. Can you let us know how y'all have been impacted?
Yes, thank you so much. And I am filling in for Lisa Maddox, who is the expert on all of those facilities. But Lisa and I talk all the time, usually 2 or 3 times a week, just touching base, and more than that if there's an occasion or something that she needs to share with me. So I'm sure she's disappointed that she couldn't be here. But as you probably know, at the beginning of the pandemic, when we were all asked to stay home, these facilities were closed. And they were closed to the public. We had no staff to man them because everyone was ordered to stay home. But fortunately, they've reopened. So what we've noticed is that the fishing pier, there has been little to no impact on the fishing pier. People like to get out there. It's a good place to social distance. You can spread out. It's fresh air. So there's not a lot of concern that we've seen for people's health and safety in their own minds. So when they come out to the fishing pier, I think they feel safe. Camp Salmon and the Kids Connection Playground, they kind of lagged behind the fishing pier and also the Tammany Trace, which is reopened. But the other two, Camp Salmon and the Kids Connection Playground on the Tammany Trace trailhead here at the Coop Drive area in Mandeville, those opened a little bit later because we had to get the sanitizing supplies and equipment for the playgrounds there. So what we noticed about those facilities is that as soon as we were reopened, people were ready to come. And that was good. That was a plus because it is another way to get outside. Now on the playgrounds, we are asking people to mask to protect one another and also to physically distance. So, you know, that's been touch and go there for some. Some don't want to do it because it's outside. It is a little different than on the Trace where there are no masks required. So the Trace activity has actually increased. Of all the facilities, it's increased substantially. And referring to what everyone was saying about sort of the local tourists or the tourists that are a couple of hours away that come in, we have noticed that a lot of people are discovering the trace maybe for the first time who may live just a couple of hours away. And so that's been a plus.
That's wonderful. Hopefully that was as a result of some of the marketing that we've been doing. So, how are you communicating with folks so that they know, what's going on, what's open, what procedures are in place? Do they need a mask if they're outdoors? Those sorts of things.
So we do traditional press releases and email blasts, and then we do video updates on our YouTube channel and on our STPG TV station. And we also utilize social media and just good old signage at the places where those things are required. Because sometimes if you don't know, when you walk in, you'll see the sign. And we provide masks for people if they don't have them. So we ask people that if you don't have a mask, contact the Trace office. The Kids Connection office, and we'll provide them for you. But we try to sort of spread the message far and wide, and we put all of this on our websites as well. We have a website for Camp Salmon, the Tammany Trace, and of course, St. Tammany Parish Government. So we use all of those mechanisms to kind of spread the word and get the word out. What we have noticed with Camp Salmon and the Trace, that a lot of the events that were scheduled to take place, those have not been able to occur, like weddings at Camp Salmon and reunions and parties under the pavilion. And then of course, events on the Trace. So we're hopeful that as we go further into the phases, those will come back and they'll rebound. But we have seen, like I said, the uptick in visitors from close by who may not have discovered the Trace in the past. And hopefully, because the Trace winds through Covington, Abita Springs, Mandeville, Lacombe, and Slidell, our patrons on the Trace are discovering all those little restaurants and museums and things along the lines of those communities when they come through.
Absolutely. I mean, we know that the Trace has been really one of those connectors that has taken people kind of connecting the dots from all of these little cities and towns, and then frequenting the businesses
Right.
that are there. So that's really, that's really one of the ways I think that the Tammany Trace in particular helps with economic development and certainly with generating some retail sales. Do we need to know, are there any changes or anything coming up that we need to know about? What would you like for folks to know so that we can utilize the facilities and just do it in a very safe way?
Well, I think the number one question we get as far as the Trace goes is in regards to, do I have to wear a mask on the Trace? No, you do not. We just ask that you enjoy the Trace, you enjoy the outdoors. But since we have seen an increase, we ask everyone just to review the rules that are in place there. No motorized vehicles, no dogs or animals on the Trace, other than the equestrian trail, which is parallel to the Trace, where you can ride a horse. So, and then of course for the playgrounds, those are sanitized every day at the end of the day. And all of our staff that you will encounter on the playgrounds will be masked. And we ask that patrons also mask. If you're over the age of 8 is what we're asking. And if you are not within your own group, but within other groups, just to physically distance. And if you see any issues while you're on the playground, please let staff know about it so that we can take care of it.
Awesome, Amy. Thank you so much for joining us today so that we could get an update on everything that these parish facilities are doing. We really appreciate the work that y'all do, because you definitely add to the quality of life that our residents enjoy, and certainly are a big reason why visitors come here and hopefully come back. So thank you for all you do.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Sure. Now we're going to transition over to some of our representatives from the cities. And first up is Alex Carollo, who is the director of the Department of Cultural and Public Affairs. Is that right, Alex?
That's correct. It's a mouthful.
Awesome. For the city of Slidell. Thank you so much for joining us today. You guys in Slidell do a phenomenal job all the time of creating a year-round calendar of events, concerts, festivals, you know, art displays, different things that are going on throughout the year. And obviously the COVID restrictions have really had a big impact on that calendar. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
They have, Donna, and thank you for having me here to be a part of this conversation. The Department of Culture and Public Affairs, we used to do over 40 different special events year-round for our citizens, and we haven't done an event since February. You know, public safety is number one for our citizens, and we can't wait to be able to responsibly do events in different ways and what our citizens are going to be used to. You know, we don't want to encourage mass gatherings, so we want to be able to come back and do these events safely. We've had to pivot somewhat. We have a Bayou Jam concert series that we normally do in October, so we're considering doing pop-up concerts for smaller audiences. Christmas Under the Stars, one of the Christmas events. We're still going to do that in some form, maybe without Santa and Mrs. Claus and, you know, 500 people waiting to see them every night. Our events are going to be socially distanced. We're going to have art events, but we're not going to have an opening reception. So we're going to try to do events, bring events back, and be able to do them socially responsible and in a smart way for the safety of our citizens and our staff.
Sure. I know you're very plugged into the arts community, and you know that's kind of one of those I guess forgotten groups of people that have been really seriously impacted by COVID. You know, all of these festivals and events where we would normally be able to have that face-to-face interaction with both visual and performing artists. You know, what has been the impact on them, and are there any ways that you can think of that in the absence of events like this, we could still continue to support those artists?
Yeah, visual artists, musicians, in nonprofits especially, you know, having events to fundraise for all those wonderful causes, that's all a group of people that have really hurt, and not a lot of people are talking about it. One of the things that the city of Slidell did, we had money that was set aside for different events. So we haven't done an event since February. We took that money that we were going to do for Arts Evening or Some Enchanted Evening, and we did a public mural project. It's called Celebrate Slidell. We have 7 murals that are going up. We commissioned different artists to do that work. That was one way to get our artists involved in the community. And it's a permanent reminder, not only a commiseration of these crazy times we're living in, but also a celebration of all the wonderful things in our community, the arts, the nature, all the things that we do when we celebrate Slidell. So that's only one small way. We can't wait to come back and do events and have our artists back and showing their stuff. But let me tell you, our artists are resilient. A lot of them have become art teachers, or they're getting, doing side hustles. They're finding a way. It's really a struggle, but I really do believe that, like everybody said, we're going to come back bigger and stronger than ever once these crazy times are over.
Are there any organizations or websites or social media channels or anything that our residents could be following to sort of keep up to date with a lot of these artists that they're not able to interact with, or find out, what will be going on soon, how we can stay connected to that arts community?
Absolutely. Of course, Explore the North Shore is a great way for all local events, and it's updated frequently, as you know. For the City of Slidell, we're City of Slidell on Facebook, and myslidell.com is our website, and we post all that information on there as well. Social media is a big way for them to get the word out. They're doing, video tutorials, putting more artwork on there, trying to get their art in front of new faces.
That's awesome. What kind of feedback are you getting from the community about the events, the mural project, which I think is a great example of a pivot or a silver lining, so to speak, making lemonade out of lemons, I guess. But are you hearing from your community, and what are they saying to you?
Of course, a lot of people are understanding and sad that that we can't do the events. Quality of life hasn't suffered, but it has taken a hit. But one of the things that brings me comfort is, once these crazy times are done, I think that people are going to have a great appreciation for spending time with their family and their friends, and going out and spending time in the community with, with their fellow neighbors and being able to celebrate at events. And they're going to have a much greater appreciation for doing that since we haven't been able to do it for so long. So I'm very optimistic that that's all going to come back and really be celebrated a lot stronger.
Absolutely. Hopefully Christmas under the stars, we'll all be able to get together in December with maybe a few less restrictions. Maybe Santa and Mrs. Claus can walk down the street.
We hope so.
So, Alex, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us and letting us know what is happening in Slidell. We really appreciate your insight and everything that you do, because we know that the programming that all of the cities do really adds to our quality of life here on the North Shore. So we definitely appreciate your efforts.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thanks. So now we are going to kick it over to Amy Tucker, and Amy is the Director of Facilities for the City of Covington. Amy, thank you so much for being with us today. We appreciate it. Can you tell us how COVID has impacted both events in the City of Covington, and then also I know you're in charge of like booking the Furman Auditorium and things like that. So let us know how the last 6 months have impacted you and what you do.
Well, I'm speaking on behalf of myself and Amy Fauché. She is the Director of Cultural Arts and Events, and she's actually on vacation after a long weekend of Antiques and Uniques Festival that she just came off of, which was very successful. I would say 90% of the people there had on a mask outside, which was great. So we obviously have not had as many events as we would like, and we've had to cancel several. But we have been able to get a few. We've taken advantage of our outdoor facilities for sure. Porch Fest we did, the monthly landing concert series where people are social distancing. We're in the process right now. We're rocking the rails that we do twice a year. Unfortunately, we weren't able to do the April, but now we're looking at possibly moving that to the Bogaflaya Park. So therefore we can have as many as 8,000 people that accommodates. Of course, we can't do that in the pandemic era, but definitely people could spread out more. So we're trying to accommodate people where we can still have something, but yet be sensible about it and be able to spread out. I'm also on the Mardi Gras committee, and this has been a real challenge that we're looking at Mardi Gras Day, and St. Tammany Parish schools are are open this year in 2021. So now we're looking at possibly moving that back to either Saturday or Sunday. So the whole game is just being flexible. It really is. We've just had to be super flexible and try to get creative, but safely. In the events, I think definitely like everyone has said, I definitely think people are looking for something to do. The farmers markets have stayed open here. Our parks have stayed open. The kayak launch has been off the chart. We never anticipated the kayak launch at the Bogaflaya Park to be just so successful. So that's been a great piece for the whole summer. The facilities on this end, on my end, has been challenging in that they're limited to 50 right now, 50 people who could be at an event. It hit right in the middle of SSA and Hannon's school plays where they would crowd in 400 people. So a lot of those events were canceled, unfortunately, but the next piece of business that comes after that are the dance reviews. And so what we've done is we've had a dance, and they're small businesses trying to make it through this whole pandemic. So we've had maybe 9 shows with each class having their own hour, and they're moving them in and bringing in the next class. It's been interesting, but they've done it. They had to do it to survive. Why would you have a dance if you don't have a recital?
Right.
So, that's been something. We've had a lot of micro weddings and micro receptions. So now we're down to 50, or prior to this, at 25% occupancy. So the Firehouse Event Center has been a huge success when it comes to these smaller venues because it holds up to 100 people. So that's what I'm seeing. I'm also picking up quite a bunch of business on the Furman side, rental side, from Kenner as well as Hammond. I'm not sure if they're just not open or if, but I picked up a few dance reviews and stuff like that from them as well. I personally have taken the time with our slower events and facility rentals is to upgrade. We have upgraded all the lighting in the Furman Auditorium. We're up there with, I feel very confident in our lighting and our sound system now. I've renovated City Hall. We've been in the process of doing that. I'm renovating restrooms. The Park Pavilion got a renovation. These were all in the works anyway, but this has given me an opportunity to focus on that at this time. We've also, as a city, we've updated our website, and that's been very crucial in every department in the city. So I'll give kudos to Amy Fauché because she really worked hard on that, and it came out great. She did a really good job. So live streaming, that has been, if you were to say what's the golden ticket to this or what have we really learned, live streaming. And I think going forward, we're going to continue that. So now grandma can sit and watch the dance review at home, or someone can watch, the trailhead events. I think that's a thing that's going to stay for sure. So, but overall, I think, our revenue's way down on rental facilities, but with everything else, we'll make the best of it and we'll come back, So I agree with everyone else. I think everybody said the same thing.
I think you echo, things that I've heard from the Harbor Center, and I'm sure the Castine Center as well, that they're trying to use this time as an opportunity to, do some upgrading and updating and those sorts of things, so that once some of the restrictions are lifted, you're really ready to go. And like you said, those are things that were in the works already, but this just kind of gave everybody a chance to get those things done. And the importance of being flexible and having, a plan A, a plan B.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And you even mentioned that y'all are going to be live streaming the city council meetings now as a result of all the live streaming, right?
That's right. Absolutely. And we should be doing that anyway. But
Right.
This gave us a chance to really get where we need to be. So, we're taking that opportunity.
That's awesome. How can people stay in touch with the city of Covington and, what y'all are doing, stay on top of the events that are being planned? What's the best way for people to follow Covington?
Well, Mayor Mark has just started his own, the city newsletter, and he puts it out one time, even sometimes twice a month, updating on all the events that are coming, everything. He always talks a little bit about a, community person, maybe some history, but you can find that on our new website. It's www.covla.com, and you can sign up for his newsletter, and you can get that every week or every other week. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you for inviting us. I appreciate it.
We appreciate you being part of the conversation. And now, last but not least, and I am so appreciative that Aaliyah was able to join us. Aaliyah Casborne from the city of Mandeville is with us to talk about what's happening in Old Mandeville and share with us how Mandeville has been adapting and the business community down there. Aaliyah, are you with us still?
I am. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Thank you so much for being here. Tell me a little bit about what's happening in Mandeville and how it's been impacted by COVID.
Well, I can just basically echo what Amy and Alex just said, because we basically were impacted the same way. The actual week that in March when we did the shutdown, that was planned for our first Mandeville Live concert of our 6-week concert series. It was going to start that week, and that entire concert series was canceled. However, we were able to do a more scaled down version of our 4th of July. We just did the fireworks. We partnered with the lake, and they provided the music to go along with the fireworks. And we were basically asking people to social distance if they were going to stand by the seawall, social distance. But the reason why we partnered with the lake was so that we can tell people to stay in your vehicle and watch. And also, we positioned the barge in the lake in such a way that the visibility was increased. So we had people to tell us that they were able to see the fireworks from areas in Old Mandeville that they were never able to see the fireworks. And also the Saturday market, we started that back up in July, I think, and we've been doing that every Saturday, and people are just thrilled to death to get out. So we're noticing that with the crowds of people that are coming out, and all of the vendors are wearing their masks, and we're trying to social distance as much as we can. We're planning our holiday events, of course, scale down versions of the holiday events, like our Winter on the Water. We're hoping we can do the parade. We'll see how we can do that if we could. Amy mentioned that they're going to start live streaming their council meetings. We did that throughout the shutdown, because we're in a precarious position, because we're in the middle of campaigning for new council members and mayors during that time. So there were certain things, and we're in the middle of budget. So we were live streaming those meetings, and I think that's something that they're going to continue to do, because the community, with the feedback that we're getting, is the community really enjoy that. And it's, goodness gracious, we're looking forward to getting back to normal. A lot of the micro events that we're having throughout the city, I'm finding that the restaurants and other businesses are finding ways to get people out, because they're having to be a little creative with outdoor venue limitations, but they're able to basically increase their capacity a little bit by going outdoors. So what a lot of some of the restaurants are doing is like little micro events, sort of get people in and out, and they're partnering, and I'm liking that a whole lot. But basically the goal is to get back as quickly as we can get back to normal, but it was a huge impact, a great impact.
Yeah, I love that we're seeing some of the businesses in Mandeville and really throughout St. Tammany Parish that are being creative and trying to figure out ways to bring people out, but do it in a very safe way, and that they're collaborating with each other. I think that that's something, you know, that again, it's the lemonade, the silver lining, whatever you want to call it, that we're seeing as a result of COVID. And there are some new businesses in Mandeville too. You know, Rieger's on the Trace opened right before everything happened, and you know, I know there are some others as well, but I think it's just really important for people to remember to shop local and to eat local and support all of our community small businesses so that they're still here once the pandemic is over. Aaliyah, how can people stay connected with Mandeville and what y'all are doing? What are the best ways for them to follow what y'all are doing?
They can go to the city's website. We've updated our website during this time as well, but they can go to the City of Mandeville's website. And I also have an e-blast, and they can sign on to the e-blast. It's Experience Mandeville, and I send out e-blasts as event. Once we return back to having more events, but they can sign on to receive that e-blast Experience Mandeville to keep up to date on events as they happen.
Fantastic. Aaliyah, I know you had some other stuff going on this afternoon, so I really appreciate you being here to join us for this. And unless there are any questions, I'm looking in the Q&A box and don't see anything. I'm not sure if any of the other moderators know of anything, but you know, I would just like to thank all of our panelists once again, from the hotel industry, Martin Patel and Lisa Condry Ward, Chef Pat Gallagher representing the restaurant industry, Amy Bouton from St. Tammany Parish Government representing the Tammany Trace, the Kids Connection Playground, Camp Salmon, and the Fishing Pier, and then also Alex Carollo, Amy Tucker, and Aaliyah Casborne from the cities of Slidell, Covington, and Mandeville, respectively. And Susan, thank you so much. You're a trooper. I really appreciate everything that the foundation and St. Tammany Corporation and the St. Tammany Chamber have done to host these conversations. Thank you so much for letting our industry be a part of it.
No, thank you, Donna, for putting this together. And I appreciate everyone, all the panelists certainly, and always love the optimism. And I do sort of want to round us out with a higher level comment that I've heard multiple times now. I, because of my role with the foundation, I serve on the executive committee of GNO Inc. And one of the things that GNO Inc. has found, and we are seeing play out over here dramatically, is that nationwide right now, suburbs to second tier markets, right? It's all speak. Suburbs to second tier markets are really incredibly well poised to see tremendous residential growth, business growth, and quality of life growth. And I think everyone made comments here that all sort of play into that, and that's bearing out in anecdotal ways at this point. You know, Lisa, to your point about a potential, you know, boutiques and art galleries from Magazine Street moving over here. I happened to be in Bay St. Louis a week ago, walking down a street, and there was a brand new art gallery, and the owner had just moved there from her gallery there from Magazine Street. She had decided that a secondary, an area outside of New Orleans was a better fit for her, and she had moved her art gallery there. And so I think both from the quality of restaurants, the quality of hotels, the quality of event venues, the quality of life, guys, you know, all the things that we talk about, it's real and it's palpable here. And so I do think we are all positioned for all the challenges and bad that is this pandemic to really create opportunities for us, and a potential really sea change for the region if St. Tammany continues to work to take advantage of that. So I really appreciate all of y'all being here today. Again, final thanks to our partners at the Chamber, Jessica, again, for technology, thank you so much, and to St. Tammany Corporation, and Donna and the panelists, thank you all for today. I've already gotten emails and feedback about what a great session it's been, so thank you all for your participation. This is likely the last in these series, but we will see if there's subject matter we have not hit upon. We might schedule a few more in the future. So thank you all for your participation and your attention.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.